What's up, kickbackers? This is Sabrina with my girl Sharika and our brother EB, inviting you to sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of The Kickback. Happy All Things Go USA, go everybody Black. I know that we are no longer in June and Juneteenth is way past, but I remember last episode, oh my gosh. I'm not even going to edit this part out, Sharika.
Keep it in.
Keep it in. This is the real deal. This is the podcast. This is the kickback. And sometimes I stumble over my words. And I can't even blame the braces or the retainer anymore because those days are long behind me. But as I was trying to say, I talked about how we would get into Juneteenth this episode. But of course, we'll talk about July 4th. Independence Day for everyone, because if we never had that one, we couldn't have had the second one. I would say that's true. Sharika, would you say that's true?
Sure. Yeah, you're right. I guess that is a way to look at it.
There we go. So, happy red, white, and blue to all of you. I am excited because we're getting into the thick of things of sweet summertime. Sharika, tell the people how you're feeling.
At the time of this recording, I will be on vacation. I will be, and will I be back? I don't know. I'm great. I am great. I'm still in that when you're just discombobulated because you're out of your routine. But I'm good. I'm happy. My temp is 73. And my song is Will Smith, Summer, Summer, Summertime. That's my song.
Yes, that's such a good one. That's a throwback. I love it.
Yeah, I'll be with the old songs. I don't know nothing new that's on the radio today.
Yeah, unless I'm trying to think, how do I get new music?
Exactly. Great question. I don't.
I think friends will suggest things. I have a bad habit of making playlists of stuff that I really like. And then if there's an artist that I already follow, then I'll check out they have this new thing and like that. Or sometimes, because I'm a Spotify user, sometimes with Spotify it'll say recommended additions to your playlist, and I appreciate that because they know I'm a basic kind of girl and that I listen to the same things all the time.
See, I'm not a Spotify girl. I go to Spotify for one podcast that I listen to that's on Spotify. That is the only thing I go to Spotify for. But I am still a Pandora girl. I still will go over to Pandora and put whoever, and this may be how I can stumble on to some new music, but not even really, because sometimes I'll put old Fred Hammond, Kirk Franklin. I'm putting One Republic. I'm putting stuff that I like. So sometimes they will throw a new thing on there if it fits into the theme of the station that I'm listening to. But most of the time it'd be my same old oldies and goodies on there.
That is hilarious. I forgot all about Pandora.
Yeah, I still be right over there on the Pandora.
I have Apple Music college too. Well, I'm in a house divided. I don't know why my husband won't get with the program. He's all about the Android. So I had Apple Music for the longest time. And then when I transitioned in my career, did I still have the Apple Music? I think I did for a little bit, but then it just made more sense for us to share Spotify, and it was just annoying because what I was paying for Apple Music and what he was paying for Spotify, it's we could just add each other, and it was easier for me to just switch to Spotify. So yeah, but Pandora was what I used for house gatherings. If I was having a dinner party, I would do that. But now I use Spotify for that too.
Yeah, I use Apple Music. My husband is an Android user. But I think we use our Apple Music on our Alexa. So Apple Music comes in there because it is compatible with Alexa. And then I use it personally. Oh, girl, now Alexa's trying to listen in. Girl, we're not talking to you.
Alexa, not starting me on the AI path of like, should we be afraid? I don't know. But my phone will do that too. Like sometimes if Doug and I are like watching TV or having dinner and just having light conversation, the phone will like respond to something that we said. And no one said, hey, Google. No one said, hey, Siri. It's just listening. Oh my gosh, it's happening right now.
Well, they say it's always listening because they got to hear the cues. So they be always listening. And my phone will do that. Sometimes if I have my earpods in, it'll happen. Or even my watch sometimes will just be like talking to me. I'm like, girl, I'm not talking to you.
Exactly. That's why at night, well, that's not the only reason. Before I had to do this because work-life balance at my old job was crazy, like calls at 11:30 p.m. or whatever else. But I just got into the habit and I still do. So my phone goes on do not disturb at 9 o'clock and it doesn't come off until I think it's 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. But then on top of that, I'll put it on airplane mode. So like nothing's getting through. And I know I've had some criticisms like, what if someone's in a car accident? Da, 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 da. You know what? I'm not a doctor. There's nothing I can do. The best thing for me to do is have good rest and come with a fresh head about things in the morning. Like there's nothing I can do. So I'm going to stick with that. I think I'm actually going to transition to the phone being outside of my room. I did that for a while. Then it was back in my room. But like if I get up in the middle of the night, which is rare, but if I get up to relieve myself, I used to like, oh, I'm just going to play this app really fast or whatever. And then like an hour or two passed by and I'm like, what the heck?
Oh no, girl.
I told you this is why like people are like, Sabrina, get on TikTok, get on Instagram. I'm like, y'all don't know. I know the amount of self-control I have. It's the same reason I had to delete Candy Crush all those years ago. It got to the point where sometimes I like couldn't bend my thumb. Well, I could bend it, but I have to like crack the knuckles so hard because my thumbs were just so tired from all the motions on my thumb. So I don't have whatever that thing is in you guys that says, hey, you've been on Instagram for 10, 15 minutes. Like, I don't have that. I would be up there for like hours and lose my life, lose time. And I can't do that because my life is really good, which goes into my temp check. This is a long temp check. I am great. West Palm Beach, let's go. My vibe, no shoes, no shirt, no problems. Doug and I said, we live in Florida. We need to get to the beach more. We don't live far from many beaches. Let's explore. So we said between June and July, we'll do one overnight trip at a beach, and then we'll do one just day trip. So we got our overnight in West Palm. I love all the beaches in Florida. Probably like the Sarasota, Anna Marie Island is usually my favorite, but West Palm Beach is so beautiful.
Oh, I've never been.
I know. Well, I used to go there for work, but I would never really get to the beach because I would just be there and then get out. And that was great because I got to fellowship with the young people there when I was doing the youth ministry. But I actually have a friend from North Carolina, the same friends that we went to the horse race with in Tampa. Didn't even know they had horse racing until we went with them, which is great. They moved there. And you know how it is when your friends move away. You're always like, I'm going to come see you. And you never do. Like my friends are in North Carolina are lucky because my family lives there. So it's very easy for me to like be like, oh yeah, I'll just, you know, make my family, my sorority sisters, like I'm going to see those people. But if I had a friend who moved to like Montana, I'd be like, yeah, whenever I'm there. And then I probably would be, I'm horrible. But we actually got to get out to West Palm for 4th of July weekend. 4th of July on a Tuesday is kind of a bummer because Doug and I both have to work Monday, but then Tuesday's off. So it's like womp womp. Let's just default it. But it's fine because we still got to enjoy all of that good time. And Doug's mom's birthday is on the 2nd. So I'm always like, Barb, you get fireworks for your birthday. That's so nice. So yeah, my vibe, Kenny Chesney, he says, I've been up to my neck working 6 days a week. I rebuke that. I've only been working 5.
Okay.
Wearing holes in the soles of my shoes on my feet. Been dreaming of getting away since I don't know. Ain't no better time than now. Well, he says for Mexico. But I'm not about that life right now. No shoes, no shirt, no problem. Blues, what blues? Hey, I forgot them. The sun and the sand. and a water in my hand with no bottom, no shoes, no shirt, no problem. Of course, I said water because alcohol. Well, we've already talked about the taste. Not my cup of tea. But I love a beach moment. Like we have a little beach tent, and Doug and I, like you get in the water, an hour or two pass by, we don't even notice it. Although I do set a little timer because Doug, he gets burned before he tans. So we always reapply after about an hour or two. But then we love to get like the little Smucker's peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yes.
And, like, chips and just go and have one and just lay down, take a nap, get back in the water. Very Kenny Chesney. So it's sunny and 85 for me. That's my temp. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great.
Like, yeah, this is officially like the summer vibes.
Yeah.
Vacations are in. You're getting out there, getting into the sun. Oh, that's exciting.
What do you think the summer anthem's going to be? Like, I feel like this was more so a thing when we were kids, especially kids who got to go to camp, because the summer anthem would become a part of like the camp opener for welcoming day, or like the closer, or the song you don't want to hear at the dance. But now as an adult, I'm like, I don't know. I know one summer the anthem was Hot Girl Summer. I can't even tell you how the song goes, but that phrase, I know it came from a song with I know it came from a song with Megan Thee Stallion. So I'm like, okay, so what's the summer anthem? Why am I asking?
Only thing I could think of is the one margarita.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't know. I just only know it from the podcast that I listen to, because y'all know I'm not on the TikToks or is that it? Yeah, I think, no, is it TikTok? Yeah, it is TikTok. See, y'all, I'm old. So I'm not on TikTok, so I don't know. But I guess it's really popular on there.
Yeah, I guess I'm not there either. I know about it because of a podcast I listened to. It's funny that I asked you what the summer anthem could be when you literally just told us you don't know new music. So I went to the wrong person. Evie could probably tell us. We should like text him and like ask him what he thinks. I think it will definitely either be a pop song. It's usually a pop song. I don't know why my head wants to go R&B. Maybe because I just like R&B, but it's rarely like an R&B song.
It's probably either hip hop or pop.
Yeah, you're right. Hip hop or pop.
And yeah, R&B don't really have like some. Yeah, I don't think of summer. Would you
consider that hip hop? Will Smith Summertime?
Yeah, that's hip hop.
Okay, I didn't know if it was like, because it's more smooth, slow, but I guess R&B is not so much.
Yeah, you're right. R&B, I'm thinking R&B season is winter because you want to be booed up and snuggled up.
Oh my gosh. That's why fall is my favorite season. Even though growing up by fall, any summer little crush or boo I had, it was over. Like I knew at the beginning of the summer I wasn't trying to take that into the school year because I had my school base to tend to. But I love it so much. So yeah, context for our listeners. The One Margarita song is based off of this action that happened in real life where there's like a street preacher type of vibe lady, and she was talking at a college campus. And I thought she was trying to tell them like, hey, if you drink, these certain things can happen to you. So you should be aware. But the crowd's response to her was hyping it up. So I think she was taking it as, oh, they're listening. And they were taking it like, give me more drinks. So she'd say something like, after one margarita, your partner might kiss you. After two margaritas, your partner might go all the way to third base. After 4 margaritas, and she kept going. It gets a little not family friendly, so you just you use your own imagination of where she could go with that after how many drinks. But that is not what is going crazy on TikTok. There is another podcast that we love, and the host of that podcast was talking about the situation, and she was like, at this point the lady was like making a song, and then her co-host challenged her to like make a little rap out of it. Y'all, she did, and it went crazy viral. And there's TikToks everywhere, which I cringe because TikTok seems like something for teenagers. And I'm like, that song is like not appropriate.
Not at all.
all, especially because the spirit of it is not the spirit of this street preacher. The spirit of it is like, yeah, give them all the margaritas so we can just fall deep into this debauchery. So that actually might be the summer anthem, Sharika. Another summer anthem, which is surprising. Well, not really to me, because this was actually one of my favorite songs on her album, Lover, Taylor Swift. The first song on the album is called Cruel Summer. No, it's not. It's I Forgot That You Existed. Then it's Cruel Summer. I love Cruel Summer. I've always loved that song, and I've always been like, why is this not a single? Why is this not a single? So we talked about her concert. We went there, and she actually opened her concert with Cruel Summer, and I was like, yes, give Cruel Summer its due.
Oh my god.
Applause for this song. It's so good. And right now they are releasing it as a single, and it's becoming hype again, and I'm glad because the world needs. Yes, it might be the summer
I feel good about that, because I just like from the concert I got into Cruel Summer, and literally what day was it? It was Sunday this week. Maybe it was Saturday. Girl, I had that on repeat. I had Cruel Summer on repeat on this very past Saturday, and I picked up a few new songs from the concert, and that is one of them.
It was new to me at the time, good.
It
captures that summer feeling. The bridge is amazing. It has like this rushing excitement and maturity to it with its pop bop. So I love that. And you know what? Let's just claim that as the summer jam for 2023.
I love it. I take it.
I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. So, Sharika, last year for Juneteenth, we made sure to be all about that life. We had a cookout. We wore our, I'm going to call it our Black Panther shirts, which that's just my really ridiculous way to say, like, we wore like our dashikis. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we wore those, and we just talked Black empowerment and those sort of things. This year, we were like, on to the next one. I'm ashamed of how I treated Juneteenth, because I saw like the billboards in my town. They were advertising like, oh, we have this free concert and we have this thing. And I just,
really?
Yeah, there's the one right by our house. Yeah, I saw, well, I be clued into like 813 fun things that are happening, because I'm like, oh, is that like a date night? Is that like, you know, something I can do with friends? I think because I don't want to blame work. And I want to take full responsibility and accountability for my own choices. But I will say my job does not have that day off. And part of what I do is look at the comments, because, you know, I'm in communications. And a coworker was like, I don't understand how we're celebrating Freedom Day, but we have to come to work. And I was like, word. So I think maybe had I had it off, I would have been like, oh, I'm off. I need to really like make this worth it. It's like not going to church on Easter. You know, come on, you're at home. It's Sunday. You're going to go. So I'm like, maybe if I had it off, I would have been more intentional. That being said, I want to go back to that same like hispa that I had right after everything was happening during the pandemic, when I was just like, but I felt so attacked as a Black person and under like such scrutiny that I was like leaning into it. And I'm wondering if that's why, because currently in this environment, I don't feel that as much. If that's why I just kind of was like, happy Juneteenth, bye. Eureka, what was your experience with Juneteenth like this year and compared to past years?
Well, last year probably was the first year I ever, well, not the first year. Last year was the first and only year I really celebrated Juneteenth in any fashion. You know, you guys hosted a lovely cookout and gathering of friends, so that was great. This year, girl, I can't even recall what happened on Juneteenth. I was off, praise the Lord, but what I was off doing, I don't know, celebrating my freedom, I guess. So that is what I did on Juneteenth this year. I don't even recall what it was, but I mean, probably wasn't much of nothing. But so that was, you know what, I'm grateful to have it off. And I remember we were talking about it, and you were like, you know what, from now on, I think I'm going to take it off. And if I get another job that I don't have it off, you know what? I think I will too.
I don't forgot that I said that, but I definitely need to do that in the future. Amen. Because that's why we have days off, and I'm going to take it. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a sick day. It's not vacation.
Okay.
Because I'm sick of the oppression. Okay. I'm sick of the lack
I love it. I love
and
that.
that's just going to be the vibe. So listeners, hold me to it. I'm going to hold myself to that. I hope I keep this same energy. I don't know what the future holds. I thank God every day that I get to wake up and live this life that I live. And if I'm around to be there next year, I will definitely be cough cough and at the parades or wherever else. And even if there's no parade or something that day, I think I might just do something to give back to the community, because I saw a lot of great posts about Juneteenth, like being together. And for me, especially being together within the culture, especially when I consider the beautiful diversity within the culture and fighting negative stereotypes. So I could see myself, well, it's summer, so I can't go to like a school and a district that is like mainly African American, but I could see myself volunteering at like a community center or going to, well, hey, most Black businesses were closed, to be honest. So
I was just gonna say, did you find a Black business that was open?
It was like, actually, my friend AJ was like, what is Doug doing for you for Juneteenth? Y'all know AJ. AJ's the white man who's been on the podcast. So leave it to them to hold each other accountable. And I was like, you know what, AJ, you're absolutely right. So I Snapchat my husband and I was like, babe, well, what are you doing for me? He's like, you're right. Let's go to Cheesecake Factory. He knows I love Cheesecake Factory, but here's the thing, it's Juneteenth. We can't just be giving our dollar to the white man on Juneteenth. So I was like, babe, the least we can do is go to a Black owned restaurant. Cool. He spent so much time looking, and I know he looked because he sent me like lists, and they were all closed. And then he said, I guess they want this day off too. So this sounds terrible and it's not politically correct, but I said, well, at least let me eat something that reminds me of like my culture. And when I say I mean my family. I am not saying all Black people eat like this. I'm saying in the Black family I grew up in, we loved a collard green. We loved a mac. We loved some type of meat that had a lot of fat in it and flavor. So we ended up going to the barbecue place, and I got cornbread and greens. This is horrible. This is so disrespectful.
Why?
Because Juneteenth is about more than a meal. It's about
freedom. It is. But if this is how you want to celebrate your freedom, you're free to do as such.
So, and I am pretty sure Mission Barbecue is not Black owned, but that's what we did. And I even said to Doug, like, just because these places are closed, like, doesn't mean the day before or the day, even like tomorrow, like the next day, we can still run it to a Black business and just say, hey, yeah, we ate dinner, but here's what it would cost for the two of us to eat. We just thank you for what you're doing in our community, that sort of thing. So that was our Juneteenth, Sharika. Do you feel like this year you were less tuned in for reasons that you can speak on than last year, or it's just the way that the cookie crumbled?
I think that I wouldn't say it was, I don't know. I think maybe I guess this is bad, but I guess because I was like, oh, no one's doing anything. And I didn't really, I guess I will say I was lazy. I didn't even think to look around and see. I'm not, when I realize that as much as people think I'm a extrovert, and I think I do have a lot of extroverted tendencies. I think there's a lot of introverted tendencies for me too. And I love to stay home type of girl. So I don't necessarily always look for opportunities to go out and do things. So it didn't even cross my mind because that's just not even what I do. And so maybe this reminds me that I need to be more intentional and look around and, make an effort. I just didn't make an effort this year and I feel bad now.
That's okay, friend. We live, we learn. EB, what's up? What's your tip? And tell us, how was your Juneteenth?
Man, things are, I would say, good on my end. If I would have had to give a tip, it's literally this Florida weather right now where it's in the mid to high 90s and it feels like the low 100s, mainly because I have the joy most times or most throughout the day of dealing with over 200 or so people aging from 7 to 17, but also dealing with about 100 or so typically teens and young adults who I have the opportunity, what I would consider babysitting throughout the summer for 6 weeks. And some of them get on my nerves, just like the sun gets on my nerves. And y'all know I love the sun, but there's levels to Florida heat. And that irritation comes rather quickly. So I'm learning to be gracious in my approach and being patient and making sure I'm not allowing my emotions to get the best of me. Actually, getting the opportunity to teach a group of kids this week at camp what it means to be emotionally intelligent and what that looks like to be analytical and strategic in your planning of your life, how you deal in your relationships with your family and your friends and at work and your performance, and not just allowing your emotions to get just, I don't know, the best of you in a sense. But my Juneteenth was spent here at a place that you probably wouldn't see people celebrating Juneteenth in Stark, Florida. But it was camp, and we were bringing in a group of kids to camp last week who are coming on to our camp to experience the love and the joy, what I would consider of God through acts and kindness or the hands and feet of his people. But we took a moment as a camp staff and a camp body to acknowledge what Juneteenth is. So that's super dope for us to do. We've been doing that the last few years as an organization and as a church of acknowledging that. It's also funny from an organizational standpoint to see how some people respond to certain things, but many of them definitely take that day off. And so some people had no clue what Juneteenth was on our staff. And I said, looking at some of them because of their lack of melanin, for me to be able to break it down for some people, it's literally, I say, Juneteenth is Black people's July 4th. That was the easiest way that I could try to convey that message. Not saying that Black people won't celebrate July 4th, because you'll have a lot of people come next month, they'll be celebrating, they'll have their barbecues, they'll have their fun time, they'll have their fireworks. But everybody, in a sense, wasn't necessarily free at the same time. So I celebrated it here at camp, dealing with kids, dealing with staff members, and trying to be at peace as best as possible.
So, Evie, when you mentioned the fireworks, I know camp does a really good job of that for July 4th. And I guess, Sharika, you can answer this too. What does a Juneteenth big celebration look like? Like, July 4th has a firework. I told Sharika earlier, Evie, we can't reduce Juneteenth to food, which is what Doug and I ended up doing this year. Just had a bomb meal, but like, you know, what is the thing that you all would say, like, this makes Juneteenth? Is it the line dance in the, you know, grass at the end of the barbecue? Is it, what is it?
Yes, I know you said don't reduce it to food, and I'll let Sharika follow up with her response. But I think just Black people getting together and having a barbecue is probably the closest it's going to get to any July 4th celebration. One, because most people, right, I don't know, and everybody's family is different. My family, we would buy some fireworks, but fireworks wasn't a thing, whether it was Juneteenth or for July 4th. But it was more so we're going to look at the neighbors because they got the money to blow it on those type of things. Because of just the economic structure of our world, you don't really have too many people with melanated skin buying a whole bunch of fireworks and having crazy celebrations to acknowledge certain things. So I think people just getting together and informing or educating others is, I think, the start. Now, what I would want it to look like 5-10 years from now, I would hope, just because I've seen it a big deal within the NBA of how they protest and how they do things together. I saw a couple players saying they should extend either the NBA season, kind of delay the NBA season for the finals to happen during Juneteenth week to pay more homage to our brothers and sisters, our ancestors who made the sacrifice of being essentially slaves in our world. So I would want it to be on a grander scale where everybody is forced, in a sense, to acknowledge it outside of kind of getting to that point of it being recognized as a federal holiday now.
Love it. Sharika?
So for me, I sadly enough, the first thing that did come to my mind was food and gathering together and just enjoying the sweet things of life, like, you know, just loved ones and that kind of stuff. But I know we talked about this in the past, on past episodes about, things that you can do. And I think going forward, maybe something I would love to do, the food and the gathering and all that fun stuff, but also maybe around that time, if not that day, coming up with some type of way to be of service or to give back or to support something, whether it's a business of color or young children of color or something, finding some way to do something to be of an impact and a good citizen and give back in some way.
I love that. I wish in my mind that there was like an award or something associated with it that the whole community could gather around. Maybe it's called a Freedom Award, and it's just like a person who's really excelled within the community with their efforts to give back in some type of service. But then I'm like, well, the whole thing was like people are free from being slaves. So do you really want to award people for working in the community? I don't know. But yeah, I am excited to see how it continues to develop over the next couple of years. And I know that I will definitely work hard to keep it at the forefront of my mind and in my efforts. And it's not like a last minute, oh, it's Juneteenth. What are we going to do today? That being said, how are y'all feeling about July 4th? I know EB's at camp, so that was always a good time. We got like hot dogs for the kids and fireworks and popsicles. Sharika, do you tend to go out or stay at home and catch what you can?
I ideally what I would love to do is be at a cookout. And sometimes like when I was with my mom, we would go look at fireworks or go like with my family. But now I just want to be home. I wish I was like some places I've lived, I can see fireworks from my home. And by that point, that's ideal. Or, I mean, I've been at camp with fireworks. That's good. I don't know why, but I just have a little anxiety sometimes when it comes to holidays where people like to drink and turn up. And I don't really like to be on the road. So like 4th of July, New Year's, even when I remember when we had the Super Bowl here in Tampa, like those, I don't like to be out those nights. I will, but I do always feel a little uncomfortable. So I like when it gets real late, I like to be home just so I'm, not trying to be, dodging people on the roads at that time. So ideally, I'd like to do a lunchtime, daytime cookout and be back in my home earlier in the evening and see if I can see some fireworks from my home. But if not, I will. You usually can hear them, and that's good enough for me.
I'll be at camp, and Sabrina, you alluded to a little bit of it. This year, we are trying something different because that week we have what we would consider teen camp. So you have about 225 13 to 17-year-olds. And then we also have a camp called Junior Conservatory where we have a group of young musicians and young artists aged 7 to 12 or 7 to 11. And it's about 60 of them this year, which is kind of, steep to have that many, young people who are away from home for about 2 weeks or so, because they'll be here for that week of July 4th and then here the following week for another camp, which just is a lot of kids on camp. So you're talking almost a little under 300 of just campers, and then of course 100 or so staff members that I mentioned earlier. And we're going to have kind of shift our programming for July 4th a little bit as far as scheduling. And then our dinner, the ideal is for our dinner to be weather permitting, to be an outside barbecue of hot dogs, hamburgers, ribs, the 9 yards of our catering companies on top of a cook outside in this what we call a unique area called the yard now, where there's like string lights and I won't say comfortable, but like I forgot the word. Crazy little lawn chairs, because there's a word for it. Because somebody else would know.
Adirondack.
There we go. Know. That word right there.
Oh, good. That's a name that came in my mind.
Yes.
I was like, that's what came in. I didn't know if it was right or not.
We got like 80 or so of those chairs, and then your normal folding chairs that you'll probably take to the beach or to lay lounging by the pool. Going to give people the opportunity to swim during that time because it's right next to the pool where it'll be. And then that'll kind of be our evening of just settling and chilling and relaxing, which is also funny because it's like we did that for that, but we didn't do that for Juneteenth. But it is what it is. I understand the culture in the world that I live in. And then from there, we'll have a just a solid fireworks show that is usually always on point with kind of music playing. Some of the musicians or our talented musicians and leaders will kind of play the Star Spangled Banner, if I'm not mistaken, or America the Beautiful, one of those songs to start us off. And then fireworks will go, and then that'll kind of be the night. And of course, you know, you reflect on the freedom that we have in this country for some people, and some will think for all people. But we also, most importantly, think about the freedom that we have to live our life because of the sacrifice made by Jesus. So that's kind of the ending of it all that we try to lead with our young people and our kids, to say, you know, yeah, we brag about this one as a country a lot, but there's none greater than the sacrifice made by Jesus. And it's not to diminish our men and women who have fought for this country, or who continue to fight for this country in different parts of our world today, but it also to just be realistic of the one who, you know, controls the world that we say we're fighting for.
I was talking so much, and you think working remotely, I would understand how to unmute myself, and still to this day, at this big age of 35, Sabrina, are you there? Is I hear much too often. I was saying that I love that camp is going to make sure that we know the reason for the season, and it's always Jesus. And I would love like this spiritual, as a kid, I called it like, camp and youth councils, which was like a spring youth retreat. Those were my spiritual highs. I think as an adult, just walking with the Lord for so long, it's not that I don't need those spiritual highs, but instead of like having these mountains and little valleys, there's just like more consistency. So maybe like more of the plain relationship with the Lord. But that would have got me on the July 4th with a little twist now. Like, hey, there's somebody else. There's another reason that we've been set free. I loved it as a kid growing up. Always would do the face paint and the patriotic songs. We have an old airport ground in Rocky Mount, and like literally, because it's such a small town, the whole town would go there and they would do fireworks. But then throughout the day, they have like hot dogs and all the typical things. And Sharika, I'm going to have to run it back. I'm going to have to do a take back, because when we were talking about Juneteenth, I was like, not to make it about food, but you're right. Like there's nothing wrong with something being about food. Food is what gives us life. It sustains us. It brings joy. It's just great. So it's okay if Juneteenth is about having a really good time with a friend you love and great food. I'm all right with that.
And I feel like that's part of like the fact June and summer and doing all that, gathering together. It is, I think that's part of Juneteenth, is like being able to be together, and however you like to get together. Some people like to get together and do games or activities, or like we talked about, different giving back as a group. You might gather together and go do a service project or something. There's many ways to gather it.
Exactly. I know my husband and I, we can see the fireworks from our back patio across like Riverview and Brandon. So that's really nice. But if you live in the Tampa area, you can go downtown and go to the top floor of any of the not apartments, any of the hotels. You don't have to stay there and just be like in the lobby area. We did that one year for New Year's and just sat there, and we could see fireworks for miles. And then we just got in our car and drove home.
There you
go. So there's some options for that. But speaking of freedom and the state of this beautiful country we live in, we have not talked about this. And so I am interested to hear y'all's opinion on the pod about the first president in American history who's been indicted on felony charges for federal crimes. Former President Donald Trump. I have listened to the entire indictment. And if you're like, listen to it, you're supposed to read it. The podcast that I have suggested and I recommend, they have an episode where they simply read the whole thing. It's kind of a dramatic reading, which I like. Yes. So what are your opinions, Sharika and EB, on this crazy? And I know he has several cases pending. We know he was found guilty for the sexual assault of, I feel bad, I don't forgot her name. The young lady he claimed he never knew that he was in a picture with, and he mistook for his ex-wife, one of his ex-wives. This is for him holding on to the papers. And I will share my opinion, but I want to hear y'all's first.
My opinion is it's okay. I feel weird because I feel like it shouldn't have happened, in the sense of I just never really felt like he should have been president in the first place. So you get what you get when you get him. So um my thing is, I just wonder, I really am just wanting to see the outcome. That's where I'm at. I know I want to see him pay, but I just don't believe he will. I just don't believe he will. He's been Teflon through this whole thing with everything else. I just see him skating through again. I don't know. Because I don't know. I just don't have high hopes.
So I would say I kind of agree with you, Sharika, as far as having high hopes, but I usually don't have high hopes when it comes to our judicial system. But for some reason, I want to say I don't know if it's 25 or 30, it's somewhere around there. I think different charges or counts against him, and how he just is kind of like all over the place where something has to stick. Now, what that outcome will be, will that be jail time, or will that be a large fine, or will that be a seizing of properties and or businesses, that is yet to be determined. But for me, when I look at his indictment, I'm like, it's funny that people who, I guess you can say, thought that he could never do anything wrong are kind of like backpedaling. I think that's the thing that's been most interesting to me, of like kind of like what some would consider his ride or die, his corner mates, or in some cases his cellmates in the future probably, are just kind of like, dang, we really was out here wilding. And then for him to kind of feel on some edge, especially on some of the stuff that either been sent out through transcriptions or some of his later phone calls within his presidency that kind of becomes public knowledge, so to speak, because it's all public records as long as you're asking for it in a proper way. Like there's protocols for those things, and him trying to figure out what he can and can't get away with. So all of that was always like fishy to me, and I just hope that justice is served, just like I hope justice is served in every other situation that we deal with within this country, especially if we continue to brag and be at the top of the hill of saying this is the greatest country in the world. When you have inconsistency in a judicial system, or you have a person like the president or former president taking classified documents or sharing them, or having no sense of secure, I guess, measures to protect these documents, it's like you got to be held accountable. And I think the person that Sabrina was talking about was Stormy Daniels. But when you got to like pay off people or figure out how can you swindle money to one person to another person to get it to that person so they can kind of get paid hush money, it's like when you got to go through all that, like you got to be held accountable for your actions. And I hope that happens.
EB, do you think that those people really are like, oh wow, I now see it, or do you really think that they saw what they saw because it was beneficial to them when it was beneficial to them, and now that it's not, now they have eyes?
Nah, so I think in that moment, sometimes just naturally, right? Like not everybody, but for some people, when mom or dad tells you something, and I'm not saying Trump was their daddy, but that's how some of them treated him. Like they felt like what he said was law. They trusted him that much. And then when it got to the point where, oh snap, the CIA is part of this. Oh snap, the Pentagon knows stuff. Oh snap, NSA knows stuff. Oh snap, this department or this, that, the FBI, and then it's like, oh my goodness, like we were blind. Like, it talks about scripture in a sense being led, the blind leading the blind, not specifically in that context, but you just going astray from the truth. Like scripture talks directly about that. So I just think they were just naive to the fact of someone in power, which we see that often where, people in power, they find a way to use their platform to be abusive in nature. And then for some of them, they're also watching their peers get either demoted or get ridiculed or get harassed or get humiliated or get fired for being in disagreement. And not everybody has the sense of boldness to challenge authority. I pride myself in having that sense of boldness at times. And other times I kind of just not necessarily sweep it under the rug, but I'm like, this doesn't necessarily impact me, so I don't care. And that's not helpful. That's not helpful as an individual. That's not helpful as a believer. That's not helpful as a Haitian. That's not helpful as an American citizen. Like when you see people hurting, like there's so many, I guess, underlying factors. Like as a person, I should be willing to help those who can't help themselves. As a believer in Christ, I should be willing to speak for the speechless or give a sense of hope to the hopeless. Like I can't let people be vulnerable. As a Haitian, like we talk about it on days where we celebrate, Haitian independence or Haitian flag days or stuff like that. But like you're talking about the first, independent or black independent country who fought themselves off from a slave rebellion. So for me, as a believer of Jesus' blood and as a Haitian in my parents and grandparents and great grandparents' blood, like I have this duty to speak out for others. But everybody don't have that sense of urgency or that sense of courage or boldness to do that. And I think some of them definitely, when you lose that power, right? He's no longer the president. They don't have that person on their side no more. So now it's like, I have a lot to lose within myself. And that's why I believe the same way whoever, however long ago wrote, I forgot after which president, but after they ratified whatever amendment or constitution or other Bill of Rights, wherever it was at, to have 8-year terms for a presidency, I think we should be in that same boat of anywhere between 8 to 12 for Senate senators and House representatives and just government officials as a whole. Like I feel like you should be shifting into another role. But like when we continue to hear this person been in the government since 1960 or 1970, and I'm not saying in the government as a whole, but like I should not be able to be a congressman for 30, 40, 50 years. Like that should, like you get that term of career politician. And when you start looking at people's track records, either one or two things happen. Either one, after a while, you begin to do nothing but terrible things. And we've seen Trump track record before he was a president. I still don't know how he got elected, but that's a story for a different day. I know some people say they chose the lesser of two evils. I would love to have an in-person or a Zoom or a Teams conversation with you on what did you see that made him better than who he went against the first time and Hillary Clinton. Like I would love to hear that because I see it from memes and stuff like that or comments, but I don't think I've ever heard somebody who I know personally verbalize that. And I know some people talk about certain discrepancies of what they would believe is a believer or not. And that's also just wild to me because I can tell you for EB, there is no political party that aligns with scripture. For EB, there is no political party that aligns with scripture. And I'll say it one more time. For EB, there is no political party that aligns with scripture. If you disagree, please reach out to me. I'm on all major social media outlets. Most of you, it wouldn't be hard for you to get my phone number. But it irks me when I hear people say, well, they're more like Christians than, no, they're not. They're both terrible. Both parties are terrible when it comes to biblical principles and biblical foundations. And I would hope people just try to find a way to be clear with that. And I'm not telling you not to vote, not to go against the Bible or go with a political party, but I'm saying don't use that as your foundation of why you go a certain way. But I hope Trump is held accountable, just like I hope every other politician or former president is held accountable for their actions.
Well. Two things just right off the top. The crazy thing being, I wasn't talking about Stormy Daniels. I was talking about Jean Carroll, yet another person Trump has had some sexual dalliances with, and he had to be found accountable for. She said that he raped her, and then he defamed her by saying he didn't even recognize her and she wasn't his type, and he was found guilty. So let's just say that. It was not a criminal case, it was a civil case, so he has to pay more than $5 million in damages. So that's one of his many cases. They also have a case pending against him in Georgia. They also have another case pending against him in New York for different things. We're talking about specifically the documents that he took from the White House, where every president, when they first get out, they do have 2 years to go through the documents and make sure they don't have things that are classified or things they should no longer have, because sometimes papers do get mixed up. The difference between Trump and other presidents is that when they asked Trump to give the papers back, he not only said no, he not only lied and told his staff, his attorneys, to lie and be like, can't you just tell him we gave him back, even though we didn't? He then moved them to places where he was hoping the federal government couldn't find him. Now, Jack Smith, I don't really care what you look like. I don't know you very well, but I have the biggest crush on you because the way he opened this indictment, not with his own words, but with Trump's. There's nothing better than getting somebody with their own words. Back when Trump was president, and you know who he preceded, who he came after, Trump said his own words that the person who takes the documents from the White House, you know, he's trying to come from Obama, you know, like the person who does this should be prosecuted to the highest form of the law. They should be held accountable. There's no reason that they should have this. This is America's safety and blah, blah, blah. And guess what? We agree with you, Trump. And so does Jack Smith. He started that thing with his words, day and time. I said, well, let me get some popcorn because this is about to be good. I'm telling you, listening to that indictment, woo! Now, you know, I love to read, but listening to it was so juicy. So we start there, and then it's just so clear. You know, they are trying to protect the innocent. They say things like Trump staff member 1 or attorney 1, when Trump is saying things like, well, you know, with Hillary, the reason she didn't get in trouble is because, you know, one of her staff members said he deleted the email. So maybe, you know, I'm just saying what he did was a great thing. That was a beautiful thing. Trying to get one of those people to take the fall for him. And you know what they did? They went right to the federal government and said, this is what he's saying. The other person who's being indicted with him was the person who was moving the boxes for Trump and then told the federal government he knew nothing about the boxes. He never moved them. Okay, part of me feels for Trump, and this is crazy that I would, because I'm like, you know, what he did was stupid and dumb, but I don't think he is a minute. Like, I don't think he was going to do something with this to like hurt America. I think he's just super prideful. You know, he's flying too close to the sun, and he just wanted to keep the documents because he wanted to be able to say he has this confidential stuff. But that's also wildly dangerous, especially when he was showing papers to like Kid Rock, a country or rock musician, and to just people who are writing a book. Like, sir, this is the thing that you said a couple of years ago when you were president. Like, no, this is people's lives. These are other countries that we have dealings with, and they expect this information to be kept confidential. And you're out here being Trump with it. So the other part of me is like, you know what? It's about time you get your medicine, right? Because you've been sick with not being held accountable for so many different things, as Sharika and Edie said. And if you have to be held accountable because you didn't give some papers back, if this is the thing, then guess what? This is the thing. We have you on Kate, Shaggy. It was you. We caught you on camera. It was you. We saw the boxes in the shower. It was you. And now it's time to pay up. It's due. So I can't wait to see how this plays out. I am interested in how the federal government is going about this, because, you know, Trump will get on Truth Social and this and that and say, oh, they're treating me so unfairly and this and that. But they're actually treating him like they treat most white men when they go to the courts. And that is blessed and highly favored. Most people who are charged with this, they take your passport. They say you can't leave the state, let alone the country. These are all things that they said, no, he can keep his passport. He can leave the country. He can do whatever. And that wouldn't happen to the average Joe Trump. So let's just be honest. You are being treated very well. And you also got a judge who we already know favors you, because she was held accountable for a case, something that went up before them, and she handled it terribly wrong. But the law was the law. They only had so many judges they could choose from for that county where the crime was committed. It's kind of like a lottery situation, and it all depends on the judge's schedule. So we got stuck with the judge who was a huge Trump supporter and who has already mishandled a former case that had to do with Trump. So I don't love that, but hopefully she'll just remember, you know, the oath that she took, and she'll look at the stone cold evidence. He's also been saying that Biden's persecuting him. And guess what? Biden doesn't have anything to do with what's going over there in that county. Biden didn't tell you to hide those boxes. That was you on the tape, sir. That was you. So let's keep Biden out. Biden's out here just trying to walk from point A to point B without tripping.
Stumbling.
I know. I'm like, please leave Biden alone. He's just over here minding his own thing. So I am enjoying just once again, not that this is the first time, by the way. As Edie said, there were many reasons from the very beginning Trump has, the craziest thing about Trump is that he has never hid who he is. We have known from the very beginning. And some of us from the very beginning were like, yeah, we see who you are, and it's a no for me, dog. Others of us had all these reasons, all these things you want to pack and play and all this. And remember, you voted for the one who ended up going to jail. Let's just keep it at that.
Okay.
So, that is how I actually feel about it. I feel great. I feel excited because I'm like, let's just keep this accountability rolling. Sharika and I talked about this last episode, Edie. I want that type of accountability in my own life. And I am like, with liberty and justice, justice for all. Happy flipping 4th of July, Trump. Let's go.
I hope it to be true. I want to see how it all turns out. I want him to get his comeuppance. Because like you said, we get him because of people who always feel like they're above the law. We get people like him because they feel like they're above the law, and it's time for them, those same people that was talking about the law and how, anyway, I'm not even going to go into, anyway, we're not going down that road, but it's time for him to get the medicine that he said was that the other one deserved. It's not time for him to take it.
Yes, but I don't even
it's
know.
It's like Haman when he wanted to put Mordecai on the pole, and then the king was like, oh, that same pole you wanted to make for him, how about you get on there? Exactly. Well, not get on there, but be put on there.
I love that Edie said that, he sees people walking back, because I haven't seen that, and I've actually been kind of discouraged. Like, even with this evidence, Stone Cold, they're like, it's a Stone Cold, they're like, it's a witch hunt. It's this, like, when are you just going to hold this man accountable? What? It's wild. Wild.
I didn't believe I haven't seen anybody walking it back. And that's why I'm like, and those who do, I'm like, this is only because it serves you now. But I just believe for most people, they didn't care, and they don't care. And it doesn't matter what that man does. They will go and they will rock with him till the end of time.
Well, he said he could shoot somebody in the street. Yep. I'm like, are we going to get to that point? And then what's their excuse going to be? Well, that person shouldn't have been in the street. Like, what?
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Before we move to our scripture, Edie, do you have any bookends for that? Or we said what we said, and we'll see how it plays out?
Yeah, I think we'll just see how it plays out. Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of food and the importance of it, this wasn't going to be the one I chose, but because of the way that our conversation went, I want to take us back to 1 Samuel chapter 14, verses 24 through 30. Now, there's a lot of war in the Old Testament, like a lot, especially when the Israelites, they have come to the place that is going to be the promised land, but it's not like just an empty space. Like, people are already there. They kind of Christopher Columbus the whole deal, but it was God ordained. So they're in the thick of that, and they're in wartime. And Saul is still king. And remember, Saul had many children, but the one we know most is his son, Jonathan. And we're starting in verse 24, where it says, Saul did something really foolish that day. He addressed the whole army, a curse on the man who eats anything before evening, before I wreaked vengeance on my enemies. None of them ate a thing all day. There were honeycombs here and there in the fields, but no one so much as put his finger in the honey to taste it. For the soldiers, to a man, feared the curse. But Jonathan hadn't heard his father put the army under oath. He stuck the tip of his staff into some honey and ate it. Refreshed, his eyes lit up with a renewed vigor. A soldier spoke up, your father has put the army under solemn oath, saying, a curse on the man who eats anything before evening. No wonder the soldiers are drooping. Jonathan said, my father has imperiled the whole country. Just look at how quickly my energy has returned since I ate a little of this honey. It would have been a lot better, believe me, if the soldiers had eaten their fill of whatever they took from the enemy. Who knows how much worse we could have whipped them. I just found that hilarious that Saul, he had an attitude, so he was like, nobody's going to eat. And then you really expect the soldiers to be hype. I mean, they still won, but everybody was tired. They were so tired that they didn't mind calling out the king's own son. They saw Jonathan get that honey and they were like, wait, not fair. Your father said nobody can eat. And Jonathan was like, do you see how revived I am? Do you see how great I'm feeling? Listen, not only will I be eating, all of us should eat and should have eaten because we would have done a lot better today. And that just goes back to Sharika and Evie's point where, hey, celebrate the celebrations with the good food, and Juneteenth is the barbecues for me. EB, what are you expounding on today?
I'm not going to I'm not going to spend too much time on the expounding, but I think one of the funniest things that I've been seeing recently, and it's funny, but it also leans towards being very, very sad and defeating at times. And it's just the repetitive gaffes of our president, Joe Biden. My dog was trying to talk about Russia the other day, and he said Russia was in a war with Iraq, and then called himself, and then afterwards like, oh, or is it Ukraine? And I don't know if he was trying to be funny, but he looked like he was dead serious. And I was like, I know sometimes they do, I won't say jokes, but you can play with the teleprompters and you can do certain things to have a sense of humor to engage the crowd. But I'm like, bro, he too out of it for him to be one of those people. Trying to play jokes, especially in today's world where, he's one of the top 3 candidates that we have going into 2024. And that's wild to me. But all I can say is, for those of you who are out there, continue to stay hydrated, continue to do things that keeps your brain flowing. Play games like Sudoku, word search, brain games. About that. To stay focused, because that's what you need to do. I don't know if it's the heat. I don't know if he ain't playing enough brain games and he was too focused on writing laws that impacted melanated people back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But he need to do something. And we need another candidate, because him, DeSantis, Trump, they looking like, well, I don't know. I guess not really DeSantis, because he kind of like the bottom of the barrel as far as the polls. And I know polls don't mean anything to everybody, but yeah, just drink your water, stay hydrated, keep your brain activity flowing.
Yeah, it's crazy that there is a time that I cried tears of joy listening to Biden's acceptance speech. And I'm like, Biden, come on. Are you going to make it, friend?
Okay, that's the question.
But by God's grace, I have had so much less stress. So I'm like, if you got a gasp, if you need a cane, you just you walk it out. So okay, of course, my recommends for today is the full indictment being read on that podcast I love, Prosecuting Donald Trump. Remember, just because it's named that doesn't mean that it is leaning more to one side or the other. It's just 2 lawyers geeking out about the law and explaining the situation that we're in and how the processes go for each case that is up against Trump. So listen to the full indictment or read it if you haven't already. Sharika, EB, what are y'all recommending?
I am recommending something that, y'all know I don't do this very often, but this is what I'm going to do. I don't get out into the nature very often because I don't like the bugs. I don't like the heat. I don't like the outdoors. But what I am recommending is an outdoor activity. This summer I said I'm going to get to the beach a little more. I told y'all before that I'm a water girl. Water just does something for me. And you might not be near a beach, but I want you to visit a body of water, whether it's a lake or stream, and just the sounds of it, just connecting with nature and specifically water is my recommend.
Love it.
My recommend is for you, no matter where you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what your income is, take a vacation.
Yes.
Please, please, please take a vacation. Now, typically when I say a vacation, I mean literally going on a trip somewhere, whether that be by vehicle, as far as, you driving or riding or a bus or getting on a plane or hopping on a cruise, but getting away from your hometown, doing something new, trying new food, experiencing life and making memories with either yourself, right? Nothing wrong with that, or making memories with people who you love, who are around you. But I have a decent amount. I won't say I have a lot or many because I don't got a number on it, but I have a decent amount of peers of mine, associates, friends, childhood people who I grew up with who don't know what life is. Like, and I say that not saying they're not living a life, but life outside of home, so to speak. I post little Instagram stories or reels of my day at camp, just, panning through what I get to do from time to time. And they are amazed, like, where are you at? That place looks fun. And I'm like, it actually is. You should probably send your kids next summer. It's the same thing I post about just about every year around March or April, send your kids to camp so you can have a week away from your children. And, because of the age range of 6 or 7 to 17, just about every parent has that opportunity. And if your kids are older than that, or if they're 15 and up, you can have them even work for us at this camp that I speak of. But I challenge people to make memories. And I say that just because time and time again, especially for me, with people who I grew up with, I see time and time on social media, I see people who have basically just passed away, come to an untimely demise at what some would consider a young age or a premature age of like, what is going on? Like they're in their low 30s or they're in their mid 30s or they're in their late 30s or they're in their 20s or their teens where they, something tragic just happened to them. And it's just so unfortunate with so many people who don't get a chance to experience life outside of their hometown. So I just challenge you, and my recommend is for you to take a vacation. If you're thinking about a place, and you're thinking about what should you do, or you want a short list, please message us on Facebook or on the Kickback on Instagram. I would love to give you ideas on various different types of budget, from low to mid to high, however you want to spend. Trust me, I will be able to find you a budget-friendly option for you. If you don't even need my help, I can tell you, you can go to whatever city you want and put in things to do for free in Atlanta, things to do for free in Tampa, things to do for free in Dallas, things to do for free in Orlando, even if you wanted to go that route. But just find a way to enjoy yourself and take a vacation. Trust me, because if something would have happened to you, especially for those of us who are employed, if something would have happened to you, your HR department will be posting your job shortly thereafter.
Right.
So don't overwhelm yourself or overwork yourself, especially if you have PTO. And that PTO for some means paid time off. But if you're in the social media world, you're on Instagram, it means prepare the others, because I won't be there.
Because I'm out of office.
I love prepare the others. I never heard that. Yes.
Yeah, prepare the others because I won't be here.
No, that's right. My supervisor went to Italy, came back for 4 days, and he's leaving again tomorrow. He said, y'all got it.
Gotta live life.
As he should.
As always, man, we bid you adieu, arrivederci, all the good things. If life tries to knock you down, and if life don't, I'm pretty sure this heat currently is, especially, I will say, let me close out with that. Not really, because I'm about to say shout out to the people in Texas. Not really shout out. I guess shout out to the people who's still alive in Texas. But please, God, be with the people who lost loved ones due to basically the heat index or heat-related deaths that have took place. And that's one of the reasons I told y'all to stay hydrated, because some of that, I think, is naturally because people aren't staying hydrated or they're outdated. Now I don't know all the stories. Some of them were working and they couldn't have that, or it might be old age. I don't know all the details. I think it was 9 or 10 the last time I checked, but I was just like, that just sucks. Like, I'm not saying it's an easy way to die, but like, just imagine like that's the way you go out. Like, you don't live your life, and that's how, life plays its course on you. So our hearts and condolences go out to those individuals from the Kickback family, to yours, if you listen, and if you don't, just be in prayer for those, because I don't know how family can process that type of death or grief. But drink your water, and if life tries to knock you down, make sure you kick back. Until next time.